Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining me today. My name is Jeanne Smith, and I'm a senior executive coach and coaching culture architect here at Procore. And I want to thank you for choosing to spend the next 30 minutes learning a little bit more about coaching and what a coaching culture might look like at your organization. So here's where we're headed today. As you consider what coaching could look like at your company, I want to share with you some of our journey in how we built the #1 coaching culture in the world. Now, I know that each of you is going to have your own coaching path, as you should, and my hope today is that some of what I'm going to share with you will spark some ideas in how you might build a coaching culture at your organization. You know, as you all know, building something extraordinary takes champions and partners. So I'm going to share with you how some of these amazing people played a role in our evolution and perhaps what it might look like for you. And speaking of partners, the Hudson Institute of Coaching is a revered partner of Procore. And Pam McLean, the CEO, will be demonstrating a live coaching conversation with an industry professional. You do not want to miss this. This is a rare opportunity to witness how a coaching conversation can be transformative for a client. And of course, we're all in business. And so making an investment in coaching has big impact on business. And so I'm going to be sharing with you at the end some data that may be helpful in some of the decisions that you make for your organization around coaching. These are my friends that are going to be working with us today. As I mentioned, Pam McLean, the CEO of Hudson Institute of Coaching, will be the coach. And she's going to be coaching Chandler Brooks, who is the head of industry partnerships and alliances here at Procore. You are in for a rare treat. So let me just start at the beginning. Procore is really well known for its thriving culture. And when I first joined the company about 3 years ago as an executive coach, along with John McClure, I remember our first conversation with our president, Steve Zahm. He shared this flywheel with us, where culture drives business results, which in turn feeds our culture. It's just this ongoing flywheel. And when coaching was launched at Procore, it was in service to accelerating this flywheel. And I will tell you that acceleration has increased exponentially with each coaching offering we bring to this organization. And so when we began this program about 3 years ago, coaching was not as prevalent in the world as it is today. So one of the first things we thought about was, wow, we need to demystify what coaching is. I mean, many people don't know what it is, or they might have some kind of a misperception of what they think it is. So it was really important for us to clearly define what coaching is and what it isn't as a first step. And so what we did is we created this 90-minute interactive workshop that was sharing what coaching is, what it isn't, how to step into curiosity and why that matters, learning how to be an excellent listener, what is the impact of being present to build meaningful relationships, and truly how important it is to appreciate diverse perspectives. Now, this workshop continues today at Procore as we continue to grow. And I know, as all of you know, it is important to have a solid foundation before you build. So this is how we kicked off our coaching program at Procore. Now, the desire for our coaching culture came from our CEO, Tui Courtemanche, who knew the value of coaching from his own experience with his coach. And here's what is important to know about that. When there are active coaching engagements with your most senior leaders in your organization is when your efforts will have its greatest opportunity for success with coaching. Because what we learned is that if coaching is not occurring at the top level, any kind of momentum that you're trying to create around coaching, it diminishes when the top leaders in your organization are not actively participating. Important thing to remember. And so we had our leaders in coaching, and they were beginning to experience the transformational success. So they started to begin to express interest in, what if I got certified as a coach myself? And so this is where our external partnership with the Hudson Institute of Coaching got dialed up big time. We took 16 leaders in our organization and we put them through a comprehensive 6-month internal coach certification course with Hudson. And as a result of that, we now have 16 more coaches at Procore. We call them Job Plus coaches because they have their full-time jobs and they actually coach clients around the organization in addition to their full-time role. I'm going to tell you the impact of this certification program is truly the heart of our coaching culture. This has proven to have dramatic return on investment for business, and it has really helped us scale our one-on-one coaching. So just imagine for a minute, what that would be like at your organization. You have leaders across the company coaching other employees outside of their business vertical in service of accelerating the growth of another employee. It is powerful. And so our Job Plus coaches then became our biggest internal champions of the power of coaching. And by the way, they still are our biggest champions. They immediately began bringing this newly acquired skill to their leadership, having more coach-like conversations with their team members, leaning into curiosity a bit more and being a little less directive. And as a result, the engagement of their teams has increased. So we call this leader as coach. These are leaders that are taking on some of the coaching skills and a coach approach in their leadership. And so in order to scale this, we really, it wasn't realistic for us to say, okay, all the leaders at Procore, let's put you through a coach certification 6-month intensive so you can be an accredited coach. That wasn't realistic. So what was important is that we started offering some of these coaching skills in a workshop to our leaders through a variety of just doing experiential workshops and some short trainings, which we continue to do today. Again, I think the purpose here is to have leaders understand that they have options when they lead. They have the option to be directive or to be curious. And when you understand a little bit more about that, you have the opportunity to pause and go, hey, would a question serve me right now? Or would I need to be directive in this moment? Because those choices really do impact and have a direct correlation to that employee's engagement and the innovation on the team. So we next looked at team coaching, which was the next logical step to scale coaching at Procore. And by the way, our leaders had already started requesting, hey, can you give us some help with our teams? And so we're currently in a beta with a team coaching program, and our full program will launch in 2021. I think the question you may be asking yourself is, what is team coaching? It's a great question. It's working with the team as a system. So that means you're honoring the unique voices in this system to really maximize the collective talents for deeper engagement and productivity. And we find oftentimes the team coaching results in increased psychological safety on a team, deeper engagement, and definitely more effective communication amongst your team members. So I want you to keep in mind that team coaching might actually be the first thing you do in your coaching program to build your coaching culture. It might not be the one-on-one coaching. This is actually where you get to start to be the architect and craft what really meets the appetite of your people, the needs of the business, and of course always aligns with the resources that are available. And so at this point in your company's growth, it's important to understand where the projections are of that growth. So you can start thinking about, how do I want to align coaching offerings at scale at our company? And I think that in scaling your coaching program, what we have found is really important and critical is that your program has credibility. And I think that credibility comes from two things. One, employees have a positive transformational experience. And two, Positive business results are clear indicators of the impact of coaching and how it's having that on your company. And so to scale coaching at this juncture, you want to continue to do three things. One, always be responsive to the needs of the business. Two, make coaching accessible to everyone in your organization. And that doesn't mean that everyone has to have a one-on-one coaching engagement. But if you create offerings where you have open enrollment, where people can come into a coaching skills workshop and learn a little bit more about some of that coach approach that they can bring to their day-to-day engagements, you can have everyone in your organization speaking the same language and having that same awareness. So I think making sure that it's available to everyone is something you may want to consider. And third, think about what kind of coach approach workshops you might want to bring to the company. So you can continue to support the learning appetites of your people so that they can build their skills to be more present, more resilient, and of course, yes, more curious. So these are some of the things that we have brought to building a robust coaching culture. And I actually, if nothing else today, my hope is that I've at least piqued your curiosity as to what a coaching culture might look like at your organization. And so now we're stepping into what a coaching conversation can look like. So just sit back, take notes, and I'm going to turn it over to Pam and Chandler.
Thank you, Jeanne. So happy to be here with all of you. And thank you, Chandler, for saying yes to being the coachee in this situation. So what we're going to demonstrate here is that it is possible to do coaching in a very short period of time and make a difference. So Chandler, tell me about what we could be focused on in this 12 minutes that would be meaningful to you and in your role.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll start here. I've been noticing a pattern lately that I seem to want to avoid certain kinds of feedback that may actually be good for me with regard to the work that I do. I feel that I have intentionally overcompensated maybe with the final product that I'm working toward, and really more as a way to outmaneuver any comments, questions that I might perceive come at me, and that I think will run counter to what I'm looking for. And so I feel like I've inadvertently built up this protection of a good defense in case I ever hear any feedback that maybe I don't want. And again, I think I just get to a place where I want to avoid it.
Yeah. What a great description, Chandler, of what you're doing and your own self-observation. I wonder how long you've been aware of this, how long you've been noticing this.
Well, I was thinking recently, I was working on a project, and I noticed while I was sort of in the moment, I had a moment of presence. I noticed, I was like, this is fairly common that I'll do all this hard work, do my due diligence, get stakeholder buy-in, and then I'll get this intuition or sort of an instinct that says, you better run this by maybe a different kind of group, a more diverse group. And, you've had several meetings now, but have you listened enough? And I felt like I got to that point where I've been pitching my idea or pitching the work that I've done, but not listening maybe enough. And when I caught myself in the moment doing it, or right after I'd done it, I realized this seems to be a pattern that I've had for a decent amount of my career. And I'm not really sure where it began, but I definitely have noticed this is in some form or fashion a recurring theme.
Yeah, it does strike me when you describe it that it's a lot of work. It's kind of like doing double duty. Is that your experience of it, Chandler?
I would say that's a great description.
Yeah.
It's an extra level. It's a tax, on the typical work that may already be difficult or hard, which I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
There's this added, debt or tax that I have to constantly pay.
A great way to say it. Yeah. So could you offer me one more situation recently where you've been aware of this?
Yeah, absolutely. This doesn't translate only to examples that I have at work. I notice I do this sometimes at home. Those that are closest to me,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's the relationships that I have that are most meaningful to me. I want to present or be perceived in a way that I've thought through all the angles. I've considered all the options. I've really done my due diligence, if you will, and not because I want to be perceived as someone who knows it all. I want to avoid the situation where I think I'm going to be challenged, or I'm going to be pushed back against. And I've noticed in very small examples that really have no level of, consequence. Should I have made a mistake, or should I do something wrong?
Yeah.
I'm doing it there too. So it seems like this ingrained habit that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. And if, so that's so interesting when you say that it happens at home too, because we're whole people. So what happens at work happens at home. If you could show up differently, what would that look like?
For me, I think I want to see myself in a playback, being reflective,
yeah,
sitting calmly and listening, and seeing that I've allowed time for the person telling me something, the other end of the conversation, that this relationship, whatever it might be. I've seen myself giving them time to share and reflect on what they want to express to me, and coming from a place of love, perhaps, or care. It deserves the respect of contemplation and quiet.
yeah.
And I want to see myself in that light. I want to be able to look back and say, did I allow that person to deliver what they wanted to? And me fully hear them before I responded or before I said anything.
Yeah, that's powerful. And if you were to imagine what the impact would be, both in work relationships and home, let's start with work relationships. What would the impact be if you could make that shift?
Let's see, the impact to me, first off, would be a sense of calm, I think. I wouldn't feel anxious in one of two ways: in a proactive way, that I'm not going to be heard or my message won't get across, but in a reactive way, I won't feel like, oh, did I cut that person off? Did I lose an opportunity to develop trust? Did I build that relationship, or is this just a transactional status quo? You gave me something, I gave you something back, and the conversation is over. There was no development there.
So that's an interesting word you use, transactional, in the old way of doing it. In the way that you want to shift, it would be more, what would the word be? Instead of a transaction, it would be
definitely relational. There's something more there than just the context or content of what we're speaking about.
Yeah. And if you did this at home, what would the impact be?
I think in a lot of ways it would do a lot of the same things. It would create a place where it's very quick. It would be very easy to bring up a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
The foundation of the simple things being easy to talk about is sort of a preview of the more difficult things. Maybe I'm struggling with something and I confide in those closest to me. I will feel probably more comfortable, based on historical experience, that this is a safe place for me to share and to be open. So I would say it would create more trust and more opportunities for feeling like I've really got a sense of support.
Yeah. So that trust is big. To see that this shift could create more trust, a bigger sense of support, and more input, really, is what you're opening yourself to, right? So Chandler, here's the question that I want you to think about. if you were to make one small change, let's just look at the next, I don't know, somewhere between 14 and 30 days. If you were to make one small change that would get you closer to this kind of experience, what do you suppose that would be?
I think habits run deep.
Mm-hmm.
The desire to deliver first, speak first. I think that's what gets me into a rhythm that's hard to break when I'm in it. So I feel like it probably has to do with how I start a conversation, a meeting, bringing up a topic. I think I need to pause and let the other side of the conversation, of the meeting, of the discussion speak first, and just time myself out. Let's call it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And just listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be a good practice to put in place, because I don't know what I'm not going to hear if I don't give it that time in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So that'll take a little bit of courage, I'm guessing, in the beginning.
It will. Dropping a little bit of the potential insecurity I feel around, what I might hear and might not like it. And just being okay with, hey, it's just feedback. And if I can see it as maybe a way to grow and develop, I think it will encourage me to want to do more of that.
Yeah. And do you think that what will make it hardest to make that shift is just what you said, that you might hear things that you wish you weren't going to hear?
Yeah, that's gonna be it. It's I think it's a adversity to pain, any kind of pain, verbal, physical. I definitely know that about myself. I don't like situations where I might be in pain without some sense of control, which is an illusion in a lot of ways. Yeah. So I think that's it. I've got to just be okay and say, look, it'll be fleeting, it'll be momentary, but for such a greater outcome that I could have ever achieved had I not avoided it.
And it strikes me, Chandler, that it could also be that there would be some positive input that might surprise you.
That's a good point.
I just don't know. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So if we were going to build just a little bit of a plan right now, in the next few days, is there a meeting coming up, a place to put this to practice?
Definitely. I've always got meetings coming up. So yes.
Yeah. When?
Probably today, actually.
Great.
I've got a meeting where what I might have to share could do with some feedback before I share.
And so what you're going to do, the way you're going to tee this up, is to say what?
Well, I want to communicate clearly what it is I'm doing. And by that, I mean, hey, I've got some information to share. Before I do, I would like your reflection or your account of whatever the topic may be. The meeting might have a particular topic, and allow for the feedback to come first, or the communication to land at me first, and I just listen. So I think it would do well to communicate what I'm intending to do.
Yeah, nice.
Be clear about that.
I think you're right, because I'm guessing people haven't experienced that very much with you.
Probably not. They probably think this is going to be the Chandler show. Here we go.
Chandler, I love that. You know, there's a word that comes to my mind. That's invitation. I'd like to invite you. There's something about that feels so welcoming. What do you think about that?
It does. It's me acknowledging that I want you.
Yeah,
to share.
I'm interested. Yeah.
Yes, I'm interested. Yes.
Yeah. So let's just look ahead and say, you put this in motion, you set this in motion, you really were able to shift this habit. What impact do you think it will have on your team or teams? And ultimately, to some degree, let's see if you have a thought about how it might impact the business.
For sure, I feel we will create a habit and behavior of openly sharing because it's invited. And there's not just the lip service to it, there's actual examples where that is encouraged over and over, becomes the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as far as the business goes, when you spread, I think, the ideas and the way you want to move forward with a particular business need across more individual minds, with diverse experiences and levels and backgrounds, I think you're going to get more information, more value to choose from and to collaborate on that ultimately I think will come out better, just because it's not limited to 1 to 2 people or even just one.
Yeah, that's great. No more Chandler show.
No more of that.
That's great. So as we bring this to a close, I wonder if we could just sit and reflect on what you're taking from this. What stands out as important for you from this conversation?
I feel a sense of responsibility. You know, this isn't going to change unless I take this first act of some kind.
Yeah.
And that it's intending to have what I'm setting out to do, which is create a space for myself to reflect and listen more. But it's also impacting people other than me. And that pulls this sort of self, desire to do something for me. And it gets away from that a little bit. And it says, how is this impacting people around me? And that actually sticks a little bit stronger in that sense of responsibility.
I'd love to hear how that meeting goes today. And for now, I just thank you for being a part of this coaching demonstration. And we'll turn it back to you, Jeanne.
Thank you, Pam.
Hey, thanks, Chandler, and thank you, Pam. So let's just come down the home stretch here and take a look at some key impacts coaching can have on your business. First and foremost, the people advantage, right? You want to get the best people into your company, and you want to keep the best people in your company. And in keeping the best people, we have found that in our post-coaching surveys, a little bit of a trend that shows that one-on-one coaching was the main reason at-risk talent decided to stay. That's pretty powerful. And of course, engagement, right? This is what we're all striving to do all the time. We want to get people engaged because engagement leads to productivity and impacts the bottom line. And so I will tell you, I've never, ever met a person who doesn't want individualized attention, right? And this is one of the treasures of being a coaching client. And so what we've noticed in our one-on-one coaching participants is that 92% of them have experienced an increase in their overall engagement because of the coaching experience. And even though we are in our beta of our team coaching program, so far 97% of team coaching participants have experienced an increased awareness of their team's dynamics, empowering them to keep the system of the team healthy. Right? You have to be aware before you can put anything into action. And so that's what's occurred with our team coaching. And then, of course, we know that people contribute their best and their most, and they're mostly engaged when they are leveraging their strengths. This is decades of research. And so 86% of our one-on-one coaching participants have increased awareness of how to best leverage their strengths in the work that they do. So last but not least, innovation. It's hard to innovate if you think you know, right? So leading with curiosity expands the landscape for what is possible. Curiosity can motivate employees to be more trusting and collaborative with their colleagues. If a leader is telling their team what to do all of the time, the team members may start to feel a little hesitant in contributing, or may even feel unsafe bringing forth some of their own ideas. So I like to say, just be curious first. Don't assume you know, like that can be a slippery slope, but assume you don't know, which is usually followed by a question, right? So be curious. I want to thank you for your time All the best.